Hi everyone, this is Lisa Ellen with Film is Life. Today we're talking about how to play Reel to Lights movie card games. This is one of the introductory videos that applies to all games. And in this particular video we're talking about earning points and the variations, different ways to do this. So you can kind of mix it up however you want to play the game. Variations are simply different ways to earn points. They're used where the game itself doesn't have its own particular method, and that's described in the instructions. If you don't have one set, then you get to choose what you want to do. It's a group choice. You can choose the variation at the beginning of every game, or just choose it once and keep with it the whole day. There are three options for variations. We have three of them. We have monikers, marquee, and makers. So let's take a look at each one and maybe give an example or two. Monikers is the easiest method. In this case, you just list the name or title independently, just rattle them off. You don't need to make connections between them, and one item is 1 point. Boom. This is a good approach to use when you want just a friendly game, when you just want to relax and not think too hard, or when most players are less experienced. And I like to say obsessed, but hey, that's me. Some of the folks I know say I'm kind of obsessed, but if you just want to just relax and have a good time and don't want to be very competitive, then monikers is a great option for you. So let's take a look at what playing for points with monikers might look like then. If I'm playing off the action card, boom, here I go. Okay, Star Wars, Liam Neeson, Alec Guinness, Natalie Portman, Harrison Ford, Ewan McGregor. Oh, Ewan McGregor, The Island. He's in The Island. Star Wars again, Hayden Christensen, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, Thelma and Louise, Susan Sarandon, Gina Davis, Harvey Keitel, Brad Pitt, and Lord of the Rings, Orlando Bloom, Viggo Mortensen, and Liv Tyler. And so on it would go until you either run out of time or the dealer calls, that's a wrap on the turn. So as we've talked about in being the dealer, they have that option to do that when we slow down. You'll notice too here that, as we talked about in the last video, that in the Star Wars ones, for example, I was pulling from lots of different installments of Star Wars. So that's one of the benefits of landing on getting one of those titles to play from. So in this case then, this turn would earn me 16 points. 1 point for every name. If playing from a people card, it's the same thing, it's just reversed. So in this case, it would be Natalie Portman, Star Wars, Black Swan, Thor, The Professional, Carrie Fisher, Star Wars, When Harry Met Sally, Gregory Peck, To Kill a Mockingbird, and so on. You get the idea. It's the same principle in action. And for that particular round, if that's what I did, it would be 7 points. And again, if for each Star Wars one, for Portman and Fisher, I get 1 point for each one. So again, you can, if they apply in more than one, then you can actually ratchet them up some, if that's amenable to your group. That's another way of ratcheting up the points. For marquee, now marquee is ratcheting it up just a little bit. It's a bit more challenging. In this case, we're going to make connections, but we're going to use only the cast. And then one connection is 1 point. So marquee is good for both friendly and competitive games when you want to up the challenge a little bit of a mental workout, for example, or when most players are more experienced. So here you're getting the people that really see movies a lot. It's more than just the casual moviegoer who wants to have some fun. These are the ones we like to mix it up a little bit more and ratchet up the stakes a little bit. So let's take a look at how one would play for points using marquee. And we'll return to our little one action card here again. Star Wars, The Lord of the Rings. Harrison Ford was in Star Wars with John Rhys Davies, who was in Raiders of the Lost Ark. And Davies was also in Rings. Rings to the Island, Sean Bean. That was pretty straightforward. Boom. Thelma and Louise to Contact. Harvey Keitel was in Thelma and Louise, and he was also with Jodie Foster in Taxi Driver, and Foster starred in Contact. Star Wars to the Island. Natalie Portman and Scarlett Johansson were both in The Other Boleyn Girl, and Scarlett Johansson was in The Island. And so on, just like with monikers. Same thing with people cards, just as reverse. So again, however you want to play it, you're making the connections, but then you would have the names of the people then, and you'd use the titles to connect them instead of the other way around. In this case, we end up with 4 points. So you can see the points go down, the challenge goes up. And finally, we have makers, and this is the most challenging one. This is the one that you're making connections using the cast and or the senior crew. So we're including filmmakers in this one. So that the major crew would be then the director, the producer, and again, you could do producer, executive producer, what do you want to do? The director, producer, the cinematographer, or director of photography, another way of saying that, the composer, the editor, or the casting director. These are all major names in the filmmaking aspect of the film, and they could be used as well, either exclusively or as part of it. And again, one connection equals 1 point. So makers is great for you really want to have a competitive game, when you want the most challenge, you really want a mental workout, or where you have all the players in play are just, film obsessed. You're kind of your prototypical film geek, which I guess would be me. So let's take a look at playing for points with makers. And again, our same card, different variation. So Star Wars to Lord of the Rings. Harrison Ford was in Star Wars, and Blade Runner, which was directed by Ridley Scott, who directed Kingdom of Heaven, which starred Orlando Bloom, who appeared in Rings. Contact Backdraft. Contact was directed by Robert Zemeckis, who directed Used Cars, which starred Kurt Russell, and Russell starred in Backdraft. And again, just as we did, you just continue on until you run out of time, or you get the dealer calls a wrap, just like the other variations. And same thing with the people cards, we just reverse them, just like we talked about with the other ones. And in this case, it's 2 points. So again, it's kind of like, you watch a game of soccer in America or football, and the scores go way down compared to, say, basketball, but it's just a different level of challenge. So in this case, for our purposes here, the challenge goes way up and the points go down. Also, our cards today, I was using the same card for illustration purposes, but when you're actually playing for points, you play across all the cards that you have in play. So if you've laid down a set of 3, for example, you play across all 3 cards. All the connections don't have to be made from a single card. And that's it for our variations. So if you're new and you're seeing these in a sequential order, then I suggest the next one would be challenging an answer. That's always a good thing to do when somebody tries to pull something over on you, or makes a mistake, or has a mistaken identity. It's a good way to call a halt to it. So, but if you're just finishing up, you want a refresher on variations, then that's it. So again, we have 3 variations for play: makers, monikers, marquee, and makers, in easiest to hardest level, and you can use these for any of the Reel Delights games. Okay, this has been Lisa Ellen with Film is Life.